Is 6% realistic? Is this a gauntlet that the government and the RBI have needlessly sort of put on themselves?
So our view is that we are seeing the next decade between 6.5% to 7%. So we
of inflation?
Of growth.
Of growth, okay.
Yeah, of growth. I think, and that is largely, sorry, you're asking for inflation?
No, go ahead, but because you've given a good headline, the MD of CRISIL is saying growth is likely to be 150 basis points lesser than the most optimistic scenarios right now. But I'm not holding you on that headline. This is just a discussion.
No, so I think, given where we are and what is going to drive that growth is going to be investment. See, this is a country where we need to have investments, and the government infrastructure investment is going to be key enabler in driving that growth. Of course, we have a very good geographic dividend, consumption. India is a growth story from a demand and consumption. But I think infrastructure investment from government, infrastructure investment from the private capex, I think is going to be very critical to drive this growth.
So sorry to interrupt you. In your view, is private sector investment what it should have been right now? Because we always keep saying government should do more. And when we talk to government people, they say there isn't enough absorptive capacity. Kitne flyover banayenge? Kitni sadke banayenge? Chahiye kisko? Who's paying for it? And you have protests on tolls, for example.
So I would say private sector capex has slowed down over the last 5 years. If you just look the trend of private sector capex, it has been lower than what it used to be earlier. A couple of reasons for that. I think capacity utilizations within the private sector has been lower than what would trigger the need for capex. Uncertainty in the environment. I think also, if you look at just the growth in terms of the growth has been uneven over the last many years. But I think things are changing. And what is changing right now is if you look at government, there's a recognition they have come up with a PLI scheme, which is going to ask 2.5 lakh crore of investment over the next 3 years.
May I interrupt you again? Why has telecom PLI been extended by a year? Are people not able to deliver? Were the targets too over-optimistic?
So I don't want to pick up on any one sector.
Okay.
Let me talk a little more broader. I would say that, from a PLI, that's one big investment. Second is the move towards green. And, sustainability is something which we are seeing starting globally. Our own government is committed to it. Our Prime Minister has made announcement. And large companies, we have Mr. Narendran on the stage. Large companies are committed to the cause to drive sustainability as a purpose. You are going to see 50% of capex on PLI go into green capex. Our own estimate is the top 4 polluting sectors are going to take investment of 22 to 25 lakh crore over the next 6 to 7 years. So these are going to be triggers from a capex perspective. Of course, you are going to wait for capacity utilizations to come up and companies to start investing. From a private capex perspective on an infrastructure side, I think India cannot be built by the government. You're rightly mentioning that. We need to have, and I think bond financing, REITs, InvITs. There are instruments which will have to come to help bridge that gap. We have ourselves highlighted that the current financing between bank loan, bond market, and whatever is available, you have a large gap on financing. You will need to find innovative structures. The government will have to, help enable, create that ecosystem where a lot of bond market investors come in, a lot of global investors come in. And I think that is something which will be a trigger for that growth to happen on the private sector capex side. But a lot of things are moving. And I would say we are optimistic from a growth over the next 5 to 7 years.